So what is engineering branding? Engineering branding it's a topic that everyone needs to know. Kris, you mentioned this in a way. It's being a narrator and a storyteller is incredibly important as an engineering leader. So it's exposing the what, the why, and the how people do what they're doing. What would you say you think of as engineering branding starting out here? Kris, we'll start with you.
Yeah, I mean, I think like the thing that we all probably immediately go to is the sentiment and perception that the external community has around our engineering brand. And ultimately, I think we're all aspiring to build the kind of company that companies in the future will look to and try to model themselves after. I think what we oftentimes don't realize is that it's just as much about our internal engineering brand as it is our external brand, because at the end of the day, like one of the biggest influences we have on people's perception is what the people who work at our company say and how they present themselves during the interview process. And so I think there's a lot more that we all probably could be doing to really reinforce that, especially during the pandemic when we're so distant from our teams.
Cos, anything to add?
Yeah, I think one, it's in addition to what Kris said, what is the company kind of culture, and how does engineering fit in there, and how does it influence it? Because I think that does differ from company to company. Two, the easier you could explain, I think, what's unique about your culture, I think the better it is. Like most of the companies, if we think about companies over the last 10, 15 years who have built really good brands, like Google, Facebook, Twitter, et cetera, like I'm using the big ones, predominantly it will be like, oh, it's really neat because we have this. Like Facebook was all about like move fast, break things, for example. And like I think that resonates with people. It doesn't matter as much what it is, but having some sort of identity, I think, helps. Obviously, like if it's something toxic or bad, it wouldn't work. But to the extent that it's something that people can say, like, that's what's different there. And it has to be real. Like if you talk to people in the team, they have to basically say like, yes, I feel that this is kind of the case at Brex. Otherwise, it's kind of fake. And then the last thing I would say is like, in general, I think people think about their work in terms of like support. So like, what kind of support am I getting from the company, from my management, from my team, et cetera, in order to grow? And then the freedom, like how much freedom do I have to be able to do things on my own, tied to work, tied to things that are personally important to me, expanding outside of even engineering, for example, and how does that work within the company? And I found those to be useful in terms of like explaining to people how that works within the company.
Brad, how would you define it?
To me, it's a lot of what is the sentiment that people have who are not necessarily employed in the company. So as people are looking in and they're looking to list a bunch of companies, they're like, what does that look like? What does it look like for me to be there? And there's so many facets which go into inform what that is. I think one of the crucial parts that we miss, and this was touched on a little bit here, is people coming through sort of the recruiting process. It could be partners that you have, like third parties, with your business, where people start getting a strong sense of what your business is really about, what your company is about, and what your culture is really about. And so it really starts showing up a lot in all those different interactions that are present. And so for me, that it has to be about authenticity. And so it really comes down to those actions that people are really taking in those interactions. Like that's where all of this stuff really starts becoming real and moves from marketing copy to, hey, this is a really a lived thing. And so it also helps give people a clear signal when they're like, hey, this is something I really want to be a part of. Or also the alternative, which is this is not in alignment with what I really want to be doing. Both of those are really important positions, which people, I think, need to be able to self-sort in some degree as they're looking at companies and get a sense of what they're about.